Good morning. Welcome to the Knit Shift episode 26. My name is Laura and today is Thursday, September 24th, 2015. If you're new here, welcome. This is a knitting podcast. I talk about my yarn, my knitting, what I've been up to, that kind of fun stuff. And if you're coming back, thanks for spending some of your time with me again. I really appreciate it, and I love hearing from you if you enjoyed the podcast or if you didn't. I'm open to criticism. So, welcome. We've reached the 6-month mark of this podcast since I recorded last, which is very exciting. Thank you for your kind words if you sent me a little note about the sort of anniversary. I can be found on the web at theknitshift.com. I'll post show notes over there for each and every episode. I am on Instagram as Laura Mahalski. I'm on Ravelry as Yarnstormer, and we have a group for the podcast over there. So just do a search for Knit Shift in the Groups tab and you'll find us. We have no knit-alongs going on right now, but I'm hoping that changes in the month of October. I still haven't worked out the details of that, but stay tuned. And what else? Am I missing anything? Oh, I joined Periscope in the past week, so you can find me over there as the Knit Shift. And you'll know it's me because my face is there. So I really enjoyed Periscope. I joined it because I felt like all the cool kids were doing it, so I should join and see what it's about. And I watched a few Periscopes from Tanya, aka BZ Mama, aka the Sampler Girl Knits podcast, and she is so much fun. If you aren't watching her podcast, you're missing out, because she just seems like, I mean, I've met her. I ran into her at a store in Virginia before, but she's just the most fun person, and I would love to spend more time with her. She seems like someone I would be really good friends with if we lived closer. So please check out the Sampler Girl podcast. And I'm thinking about doing my first Periscope this weekend, on Sunday night, actually. So I will post that over on Instagram. I'll mention it in the Ravelry thread to remind you guys and myself. And we'll figure it out. I feel like I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest, because I worry, what if I do a Periscope and no one comes? But we'll see. Hopefully some of you guys will join me and we can chat and knit. So, what are we going to be talking about in this episode? I have a little bit of progress on a sweater I'm knitting to show you. Not much, but some. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I have a little bit of stash enhancement yarms. If you're new here, I call my stash enhancement segment yarms because that's just me, being weird. And yeah, it's been a pretty good week around here. It's a little crazy work-wise. We have this nor'easter blowing in, this storm. I live in Southeast Virginia, in Norfolk, very close to Virginia Beach and the ocean and the Chesapeake Bay, and we get these weather patterns sometime, especially in the fall. I mean, it was just the first day of fall yesterday. We get these storms that blow in from the north and really add to the flooding, and it does not take much for the roads around here to flood. It just takes a heavy downpour, and it can be tricky getting to my office because Norfolk is so close to sea level. It's along with New Orleans, it is one of the most vulnerable cities to sea level rise and flooding and all that. So we should be we aren't getting a lot of rain this weekend, but we are getting a good bit of wind, and on top of the full moon, and it's the super moon where the moon is closer than normal. The tides are a little extra wacky, so it should be an adventure this weekend. So I'm hoping, the week's not going to calm down for me at work, but it'll still stay busy. But outside of work, it's been pretty quiet. I gave blood on Tuesday at the Red Cross. Was it Tuesday? Yes, it was Tuesday. Giving blood is very important to me. It helped my dad. He went to give blood and found out his iron was really low. He had always given blood in his life, and his iron was so low, they were like, you really need to get this checked out. And because of that, we found out he had cancer. Now he's a cancer survivor, so giving blood is very important to me, and I feel like it's a little me putting good karma out there for the world because it helped my dad, indirectly. Even though he didn't receive blood, it helped him discover this health issue. So I like to give blood when I can. So I did that, And yeah, I've been feeling a little under the weather. I think giving blood wears me out a little bit, and I just feel kind of woozy, and I felt kind of crappy the past 2 days. I just haven't been very hungry and feel kind of pale, and not enough to like call in sick from work and sleep all day as much as I might want to, but just feeling kind of cruddy in general. So today's Thursday. Today I have Thursday, Friday, Saturday of work, and then it's my weekend. So we'll see. So yeah, let's get into the knitting. That's why we're here, right? So I have no finished knits to show you, and I have very minor progress on this sweater. This is really all I've been knitting in the past week, so this is the only thing I have to show you. Last week I was on the second sleeve of my Mama Vertebrae cardigan. I just realized I was covering the microphone with my sweater. I've made a little bit of progress on this sweater. It's Mama Vertebrae by Kelly Brooker. It's a $4 pattern. It comes in many, many sizes and many weights of yarn, so it's very versatile. Last week I was about here on the second sleeve. I was very close to the cuff. And since then I have finished the cuff and I've started the button band. So it's a little tricky because my needle is kind of short. Ooh, just hit myself in the glasses. I'm keeping my needles in a needle keeper, which is this is the first time it's really come in handy for me. This looks like a magic wand, but it has this little silicone slit there, and you put your needles in it, and it secures them and keeps your project safe, and you won't drop stitches off. And so you can see it's really crumpled up on the needles here, but Mama Vertebrae is a frontless cardigan. It really does just cover your back, and this is how far I am on the button band. I'm really pleased with how the picking up of stitches went. It has not always been so neat for me, but I really am happy with how this turned out. And I've knit about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter of the button band, and it's seed stitch. So I'm hoping to use up almost all of this ball of yarn, which is down here on the floor, I think. Yes. So basically I started this skein of yarn with a button band, so I have a lot of it left. This yarn is Stonehenge Fiber Mill Shepherd's Worsted, which is a lovely heathery gray. I don't know the colorway name, but it's like a gray sweatshirt to me. And it's quite soft and just has a very subtle heather to it. And this is my second sweater I've knit out of this yarn. I knit another sweater out of a teal colorway. And I have one more skein beyond this, so I am not at all worried about yarn. And if the seed stitch doesn't kill me, I might use up this and go into my last skein of yarn and make it a really thick button band. I don't know if I can bring myself to do that though, because each pass, I picked up the stitches at the bottom middle part of my stomach, and you go up the bust, up the chest, and around the neck and down the other side. Just one pass takes me 20 minutes, and that's if I'm knitting furiously fast with no distractions, no putting it down to take a sip of tea, no stopping to switch laundry, just 20 minutes of helter-skelter knitting. And I never knit like that. I'm always interrupting myself and that kind of thing. So it takes a while. I made much of that button band progress over my weekend, so we'll see. It might take me, I have time to finish this. My self-imposed deadline is mid-October, so, knock wood, I will have it done by then, barring catastrophe, so we'll see. So I'm really enjoying it. This is my second Mama Vertebrae sweater I have knit. This is my third sweater ever, so I'm very excited to be done with it, and it's going to be so versatile and just really I could wear it all the time. I can't wait. So, and last week I mentioned how I was doing the sleeve decreases, and I'm not sure I was totally clear about it, so I'll mention it again. So as I knit sleeve number 1, I put a stitch marker at each decrease, which is something my local yarn store shop owner told me she does, and I think it's quite helpful. And there were more here. I did quite a few at first, and then there was a break, and then I kept doing some more. Okay, as I was saying, I mark the sleeves, the decreases in the sleeves with stitch markers. So when I start the second sleeve, I know exactly where to put the other decreases. You know, sometimes a pattern will give you instructions for sleeve decreases a certain way, but it might just not match up with the shape of your arm. So as I proceeded, I added stitch markers to the second sleeve, and because I was lazy and didn't want to go into my office, or maybe I was out and about and I didn't have enough stitch markers with me, I started to steal stitch markers from the bottom of the first sleeve to put it on the second sleeve. And I kind of just stole stitch markers from sleeve 1, sleeve 2, just to kind of keep it looking the same the whole way up the sleeve to the cuff. I hope that makes sense. So I don't know when I'll finish this, hopefully pretty soon, but yeah, it'll be a little while because button bands take a long time. So, and that brings us to a segment called Yarns. Last week, 2 episodes ago, I said I'm really trying not to buy yarn because I'm going to a fiber festival in the first weekend of October, going to a fiber festival at the end of October. I'm really trying not to buy yarn. And then one previous episode from now, I showed up with 2 sweaters worth of yarn. And I have more yarn to show you because I forgot that we stopped at a yarn store on our way down to Hatteras. Hatteras is very far south, but before you get to Hatteras, there are other towns, and one of them is Kill Devil Hills. And there's a yarn store called Knitting Addiction there. And I've been there many times. I like it very much. And we stopped there first thing before we even had lunch, and I bought a couple things. The first thing I bought was this Delaque bag that says high in fiber, low in calories. It was in a sale bin in the back, and it's a good little drawstring project bag. So, and what I bought was another Crazy Zauberball from Schopel. This is colorway 2250, and it has a German name that I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but it's 420 meters, it's merino nylon, it's greens and tans, and there's some teal and darker brown in there, and I'm knitting a pair of socks out of the Zauberball right now, and I couldn't resist this one. So it's leftover stash enhancement, not new. Again, I'm going back on my word, but isn't that the way we are about yarn sometimes, fellow knitters? And I told myself that once I picked up the button band for that gray sweater, that I would allow myself to wind up yarn for some future projects. I love winding yarn. Sometimes I just like to wind yarn to take the edge off. That probably sounds kind of silly, but sometimes it's just nice to go into your stash and see what you have and what you want to work with and get excited about it, and just seeing it all caked up really gets me reinvigorated. So it's just a nice little stress relief to wind yarn. I have a Swift and a ball winder, so I told myself I could wind up yarn for the Helen Stewart Summertide Mystery Knit Along. And I did. I wound up this French Market Fibers. I looked it up to make sure I didn't forget what it was. It's a warehouse sock, which I believe is a BFL nylon base. And the colorway is, it slipped my mind again. It's like waving in the whirlpool or walking on the water side. There's a couple words that begin with W. I'm so unhelpful. But it's a beautiful tonal purple gray sock yarn, and I love it so much. And I'm going to pair it with this Plucky Knitter cake plate. It's a Plucky Knitter Primo. It's a merino cashmere nylon blend, about 380 yards, and it's super soft, and this is the colorway cake plate. And I just think these two will make a really pretty shawl together. Just really pretty colors. Oops. So I caked that up. And I also caked up yarn for my next pair of socks. Like I said, I'm currently knitting one pair of socks. It's a Crazy Zauberball. I'm on the second sock, and I'm looking forward to being done with them so that I can start a new pair of socks. So I went looking in my stash, and I found 2 things I wanted to wind up. One is a Miss Bab sock yarn in the colorway Perfectly Reckless. I bought this at I bought this at Fiber Space in Northern Virginia. in May 2014 before Maryland Sheep and Wool. And I just thought this would make a really pretty pair of socks for fall. And I couldn't just wind up the one. I had to give myself a choice so that I can see what I'm really feeling when I finished this current pair of socks. So this was really calling to me. This is Spun Right Round, and it's her Snappy Socks base in the colorway Escape from Prism. It's 434 yards. It's a 75% superwash Corriedale and 25% nylon. And it's a really fat cake. Like, here's the Miss Babs. Here's the Miss Babs, and here is the Spun Right Round kind of just dwarfing it. You can see that this Miss Babs is just smaller. So this is going to make a really generous pair of socks, and it really is rainbow craziness. And I normally knit plain vanilla socks, but I am thinking about doing like a Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern or a Blueberry Waffle pattern, hoping that that helps corral the crazy colors a little bit. We'll see. I'm probably going to knit these. Whatever I knit next, I'm going to knit a pair 2 at a time because I like knitting 2 at a time a little better. The socks just seem to go more quickly that way. So I have these sitting here. I have a little TV tray that stays set up next to me, and I keep, a cup of tea on it or whatever because this is kind of my knitting chair. And I have these yarns just sitting here kind of taunting me for when I can pick them up and cast them on. So I'm looking forward to that. So what else? Yeah, I spoke last episode about a new knit along I'm plotting. I want it to be something that you make for yourself, even though it's the holidays and a lot of us make Christmas gifts and Hanukkah gifts and whatnot. I'd like it if you knit yourself something. So I'm still working out the details of that, such as the time frame and everything. And so I don't think it'll be quite as strict as my last one. Not that the last knit along was very strict, but if you're already working on something for yourself right now, that's fantastic. That can be part of it. I'm thinking it won't be too stringent. So I've already started gathering potential prizes. I bought a really nice bar of soap when I was down in the Outer Banks. And I bought a little treat at my local hair salon, and my mom very generously is providing a really awesome prize that I won't mention until I get it in hand. So she was at a festival called A Wool Gathering last weekend in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and she bought some really nice stuff for herself, and she bought a prize for the next knit along, which was very generous. So thanks, Mom. What else? I think that might be about it for this week. It's kind of a thin episode, but like I said, it's been a little bit crazy for me lately, so hopefully you don't mind. It's a little shorter than usual. So thank you for watching. Thanks for spending time with me, and I'll see you next week. Bye!